love for the people who got love for the people who got love for themselves.
For the love for the people, love for these streets, from north to the south, to the west, to the east, for the sake of this whole earth. Best believe we gotta stand strong together and make peace. For the love for the people.
Okay, so hello everybody, welcome to another live stream. So I do apologise for this one being a bit late again, but as you may have noticed, I've swapped back over to Twitch. So I can't seem to make up my mind as to what platform I'm going to stream on, but currently I think Twitch is the way forward. I've tried Mixer, and to be honest, it's just dead. Nothing ever seems to happen on there. There's no viewers, really. And the programming scene just isn't really something that exists. I mean, there's a couple of people that joined, and I'm thankful for those people that did join me occasionally. But nothing like the engagement that I had previously, even though I only did a few live streams before. So another thing you might notice as well is this is on a new channel. So before I was streaming on my personal one, but now as part of our kind of streamlining process, which I've written about in our blog, everything now is going in one place. So all of our live streams are going on our R Code platform. All of our YouTube videos are going on the R Code YouTube channel, and so on, basically. So it just makes our life a bit easier, especially for me as well, because it means I don't have to juggle multiple social media accounts, which isn't really that. I mean, it's a pain in the arse as it is to manage your social media without having to do multiple. It just gets confusing, especially when you're dealing with a lot of posts and a lot of potential viewers as well. And also I wanted to make that separation between my personal work and basically what I do professionally. So basically we're just doing a quick live stream today. It's nothing too fancy. What I want to do mainly is get the voxel removing feature working, because for some reason, as part of the new overhaul that's been done on this code, the removing function is no longer working, and I need to work out why. Hopefully with a fresh set of eyes this time round, I'll be able to identify what the problem is, and hopefully fix it. So let's move this across a bit, just because my lines of code are massive. So skipping past all of this stuff, which to those who hasn't seen the stream before previously will be a bit foreign, but we'll go back down to the bit that's relevant. So we'll probably be visiting this function at some point, because this is kind of core to what I'm doing, but this is the main function. You see, I left a really helpful comment there because I was getting pissed off at it last time, but don't need that anymore, so know where I'm starting. So the main challenge now is to work out why on earth this line of code is not doing what I expect it to be doing. So to explain what it should do, it should look in the list of models that we have loaded into the scene. So these are instanced models, which is why they're in an array. Basically one array element is the shape type and another is the material. Just so that I can store all of the models that I want to as part of instance meshes rather than not. Which I've been over in the recent live stream, so if you've been keeping up, then so far you should know what's going on. But to jump right into the core of the problem, so initially what I'm doing is I'm jumping into the visible mesh shape IDs for the XYZ position that we're looking at, and I'm looking at the initial slot. So this should be for the top piece. So yeah, that should be for the top block basically that we have in memory, and it should say, okay, this is in X position in our materials list basically. Sorry, not in the materials list, in the shape list. So that's just keeping an idea of where things are basically. Same with this. This is just reading the shape itself and saying, okay, what material are you? So it knows what to pick. That's fairly self-explanatory. And then we're using this function which might be the culprit of the issue, but I've not been able to work out why yet. So we're using something called update instance transform. Now, previously this has actually worked, so I might revisit some older code and see if there's any different, like major differences between what's going on there. But this is essentially taking the position in the list. So you know how I was talking about, we've kind of got these almost like IDs basically as part of each voxel that say where it is, what type of shape it is, and also what type of material it is. We also have one for where it is as a part of this array, so what number it is as a part of this array, which is visible mesh IDs. So again, we have a number for each of the different faces of the shape, going from 0 to 5, so 6 sides in total, which makes sense as the shapes are cubes for the most part. So we're choosing that position, that should be no problem at all. And then we're feeding in f transform. So I've tried passing in a rotator just to see if that actually does anything, which it doesn't appear to do. This is actually something I want to remove because it's somewhat irrelevant. This should be the only thing that matters really, and that's setting it to a vector position. I will look more into this function and what it actually does. Well, sorry, the data type and what it actually does, and if it's relevant to this function, which I believe it is. I'm pretty sure I've seen it in the parameter list and it references position, but hopefully we can figure out why it's not doing what it's supposed to. But I'll jump into the editor and show you guys what I expect it to do, and hopefully we can kind of work backwards and see where we're at with it. If this worked, I'd be absolutely amazed because it didn't work last time, but I wouldn't be surprised if a fresh rebuild actually fixed the issue. So as you can see, like recently the improvements we've been making have made this a lot smoother. That's what instance meshes have really done for us, to be honest. Especially spawning stuff in, like that's a breeze now. Gets a bit laggy the more objects you place in the scene, but it's really not that bad actually, considering. But yeah, look, I mean, we can look at this and it's actually fine. There's no issues at all. The problem comes in when we try and remove shapes. So what it's supposed to do, particularly when you're merging two objects, it's supposed to remove the old shapes and replace it with new ones, but I don't know if I can find a position where there's actually two shapes layered on top of each other. Probably not, it'd be hard to see. Let's try on the ceiling. Yeah, that's on the ceiling of the map. So here, where I've placed this to, you should see a ramp inside, I believe. That's kind of hard to see. If I place there, maybe. It's not doing it. It's always helpful when you want to illustrate something. But just take my word for it, basically. It's not removing the blocks where it should be. I will see if I can get it to do it. So I think here, there's multiple layers of stuff. No? I can't find it. Oh well. Basically it's not removing them, and the reason I know it's not removing them is because when I right click, it should do the same brush, but with air. So it should basically be saying you need to remove this item, and place it in the position that I've specified. So the reason we're moving the block and not removing it from our instance meshes list is because removing meshes from instance mesh lists is extremely slow, because it basically has to reorganize the entire list. It's good if you're rebaking the list, so let's say you have a list with a bunch of junk data in it. If you rebuild that list, it's fine. But that would mean wasting time every frame rebuilding that list every time, which it would take forever. So the solution that I've been suggested by someone that I'm in contact with at my university is to simply move the object outside of the render area, which is a bit of a cheap, dirty solution. Like, I'm not entirely happy with it, but as far as I'm concerned, it does the job. If I can get this to work, then great. I shouldn't be having any issues whatsoever, and that's no problem at all. So what I'm going to do is find another version of this and see what differences I can find. So this is the same use of the function. So basically, that's the same. Visible mesh IDs, let's just double check that. So yeah, that's using visible mesh IDs for each shape type. So that shouldn't be a problem. The bit that might be at fault here is the ID. So let's have a look. So this position again just specifies the panel that's being used. This again could be the issue, but we're actually storing these panels anyway. So if you look here, visible shape mesh IDs, as soon as these are being written to, they're actually being saved to the correct location in memory. So visible shape mesh IDs is 5, and that's what we've put in. Sorry, I'm losing myself. That's what we've put in here as well. So in theory, it should be the same number. I don't believe there's any area where I'm deleting that data, so it shouldn't reset at all. No, I don't believe that's the issue. Let me just double check that we are using the correct IDs. So yeah, visible mesh shape IDs, that should be fine for each position. So since we're storing those anyway. And the materials that we're using should also be fine. So we're using voxel data.material. Same thing, actually. The only thing that I can think of is we're not passing in a rotation. That might be the problem. Can't see why it would be, but it's certainly a possibility. So let me try taking this. Bit of a shot in the dark, but let's try taking that anyway. Let's put it there. Set these to 0, it really doesn't matter. I don't know, let's do x times 2000. Oh sorry, 20,000, I can't read apparently. So if we put in this bit of code for every function. Okay, if it can stop being awkward. Or rather, I should stop being awkward, can't really blame the editor here. Let's try that. At least if we've tried this, we know that it isn't an issue with the function itself, because I mean it's being crawled elsewhere and it is working elsewhere. So let's again get our shape out, let's place it like that, and no, it's still not working. One thing I'm also going to check is that it's not disabled in the editor camera, just in case I actually forgot to add in removing, sorry. It should be in here, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so this is basically this is bound to the editor itself, the inputs. This is using an axis input, which basically means I can pass in a number based on what's being pressed or to what degree it's being pressed. So this is left and right click. This boolean is just saying basically if passed in as right click, we want to remove blocks rather than add them. So here we're saying, is additive true? If so, material equals 1. If not, material equals 0. Now that's always how the editors actually worked. There's no real difference there. So that should be fine. That was actually working before. So let's now visit the point at which that's called. So that would be change voxel. So we're doing deferred voxel load. Sorry, we're pushing stuff to the stack. And then this is getting called every frame. So if the queue that we've got is not empty, delete the instance. And then if the material is not equals to 0, we spawn a new one. So this should be working fine, but for some reason this isn't getting called. It might be that this isn't working properly, and in that case I obviously need to fix that. So once placed, we actually set this to something other than -1, which is here. So visible mesh shape IDs should be changing, and then it should be getting updated here. One thing I think I'm going to do to reduce a bit of clutter is actually no, never mind, ignore me. That's fine. Give me a moment while I just think through some of the structure of this code, and I'll see if I just want to work out if it makes complete sense and that I'm doing what I think it is. Yeah, here we're saving the position in the list, and here we are saving the shape type. I know that this first bit works because we're using it literally in the line afterwards. So presumably it's just not moving. Eventually what I'll do is I'll step through the code and see what exactly is going on there. Try again. What I'm going to do is just sweep across the floor and see if I can get anything to be removed. So no, it's not removing anything at all. Okay. Double check that I'm also setting it to -1 at the start, which I am. Every single position is getting set to -1 at the start, which is fine. This is actually a lot of updates, by the way. I mean, this is whatever this is times that times 6. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to optimize the memory overhead if it becomes an issue, which it probably will once we start increasing the world size. It will kind of get worse as a matter of like squared numbers, which isn't good. But that's a later problem really. At the moment I just want to get this working. So what I'm going to do is I really want to step through this code. So I will start this. Yeah, so I'll run it directly from the compiler. It will take some time to build, but it'll open a new process up and we can debug it that way. I just want to make sure that the numbers at least seemed to make sense. Excuse me. Just trying to think if there's anything wrong with this expression as well while we wait. So if visible mesh IDs, if the topmost panel has actually been changed to something that has a shape, then yeah, update the position of that shape. Set the ID to -1. I think that's fair. It's almost like equivalent of erasing it from my engine's memory, but not actually erasing it from the engine itself, which is fine. Like I say, for this case, it's a bit of a stupid way of doing it, but it worked, so I can't really complain. Ooh, I've just thought actually one thing it might be doing. Is there's a chance I'm deleting the data first? I don't think so, but like material, for example, might be erased at some point. Okay, so that crashed at the point where I thought, well, sorry, not crashed, it broke at the point where I thought it would, which is on the first run through, as soon as we go to overwrite one voxel with another. So let's see what it says. So it's definitely stepping through to here. See a 1 in there, that's the materials. The materials 1 at the moment. The shape ID is 0 because that's the top panel, so it is more than -1. Got the X, Y, the Z position. I also want to check that. Oh, where would it be? This the material doesn't have a case 0, so that shouldn't be an issue. I also want to make sure that the material is being set to 1 as well. Should be. I believe it happens elsewhere though. So right, so pushing it to the stack, and then we're setting all of its properties. Shape and material being some of them. The material is definitely set when it hits this point. So that's fine. Material really shouldn't be 0 though, I don't think. Shape ID is 0. The visible mesh ID is 1. So that's the position in the list, that's fine. That's the top panel, so again that's fine. I had material, didn't I? Where was it? Yeah, material's 1. So, I mean, as far as I can tell, everything is what it should be data-wise. This isn't doing what it should do. Visible mesh IDs, again, that was 1. So yeah, we definitely are targeting the first item in the list. In fact, I know exactly what's happening. So, basically to explain what's going on here, I'm prematurely overwriting the material, so it doesn't know what the old material was. This obviously won't work. Because basically we need to know what the old material was before we can change it, right? So what I'm going to do is part of the deferred loading data structure. Oops, I did not mean to press that. Whoopsie daisy. But yeah, as part of the deferred loading process, I'm going to expand what data I store in that to include things like material information and stuff, and hopefully set it later on. Or I could potentially pass it in as an additional parameter as well, before overwriting it, that is. Let's close this. There we go. Right, so so I want to push the... I mean, ideally I should do all of them really, so then it can, if I need to do any shape-based manipulations or anything like that, I can. I'll put these in. I mean, not the most elegant solution, as I know I'm storing a lot more data now, which isn't great, and storing it in parallel no less as well. Both got the queued stack and also the existing material data. But I mean, if I need to do it, I need to do it. There's no real getting around that. So this needs expanding to include the... What order did I put it in? Not those. We can get rid of those now, so we don't need them. Shape, material, rotation. So in here, it needs to be... Oh, it's the same order actually. Shape. Oops. Material. And rotation. There we go. These can be cut, and I will add them instead to here. And what I actually want to do is pass in these as additional parameters. So spawn voxel model instance needs a slight update so that it can accept additional parameters into that. I will also update the definition in here, so it'll be easier to do it this way. If I copied these, spawn model instance, wasn't it? So let's get rid of that. Update that. I always seem to find the most weird way to program. I do loads of weird stuff on my keyboard when I'm programming. I don't recommend programming in my style, let's put it that way. I'm not exactly very disciplined. Right, there we go. So that's now a thing. That should be passed in at this point. So I can just do deferred loading front dot, and then it should just accept those additional parameters. So whatever order it was. Double check again because my brain is stupid. So that's yeah, that's just shape. I think it was material, and that was rotation. So yeah, I don't need to remember that one, but yeah, that's fine. So this is just a simple matter of updating each one in turn, making sure that they're all counted for. I actually kind of wish I still had that code in here so I could just cut it. I should have put it in initially. In fact, no, don't need to do it that way. So I need to do voxel data dot. Probably easier if I copy it out of here, to be honest. There we go. Ooh, that is not the formatting I wanted. Bear with me. There we go. This song's a bit edgy, isn't it? I'm going to skip this one. Sounds a lot more peaceful already. And then obviously don't want to set it to an array initializer. We want to set it to the appropriate thing that we've passed in. So shape material. One thing I've just realised, actually, this might break smoothing. I think smoothing was relying on old voxel data. Oh, that's annoying. Might mean I have to undo all of that work. We'll see though. Can't remember off the top of my head what variable it was that voxel smoothing used to reference existing items. It might be okay. It runs, but we'll see. It's going to take some time, so I've edited the header file. But yeah, I genuinely think this might break it. Yeah. Okay, so undo all of the work I just did. What I'm going to do instead is keep two materials in parallel. The existing one and the new one. So undo all of that, undo that as well. What else needs updating? That can stay as is, so just redo that. So yeah, I'm up to there. That's fine. So what I'll do is in here call something called... Oh, in fact I don't even need to do it in here. What I'll do is I'll keep it inside of this section. I'll have a section called short new material. Trying to think if that will have any impact on it. So we need data to be preloaded for when doing voxel smoothing, but we also want another data set for the future things that we're using. So maybe as a part of delete voxel model instance I could maintain the old data set as well. In fact, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what I'll do is, as part of, rather than storing all of that because it's not strictly necessary, inside of delete voxel model instance I will have old material. Additionally, I'll also have old shape as well. Actually, I don't think I need. I don't need the shape because we're not actually wiping anything in the buffer up to this point. So it's not. This is a really not very clean solution, but oh well. It's one of those things that'll annoy me slightly. So I've not done it quite how I would have done had I known this was going to be a problem. But oh well, I'm kind of in too deep at this point to do an entire code refactor, and it's not that messy anyway. I will include this and see if this helps solve the problem a little bit. Did I re-update that? Yeah. Delete voxel model instance. Old material, that can be passed in. Now at the point that I need this to be saved, in fact, that needs adding to here. Save some space, save it as a short. This will be voxel dot material. Sorry, my mistake, that goes at the end there. That's now passed on to the stack. So at the point at which we reference this stuff, so wherever there's material, we should be able to replace it with old material. So rather than overwriting the existing thing prematurely, obviously we need to know what it is we're removing first. So let's do that. Of course, deletion as well could actually be done instantly. I'm not sure if that would be laggy or not. Instance meshes might be a lot faster to add to the scene thinking about it, and so deferred loading might not even be necessary. But until I'm proven otherwise, I will keep it as is. Oh, what have I done? Oh, right, of course, yeah. Easy fix. And then old material. There we go. A good job I came back to this with a fresh set of eyes, to be honest. It, at least I know where the issue lies, let's put it that way. If I do need to do a complete code refactor because it does stop working entirely, then I'm happy to do that, but obviously we'll try and avoid it up to that point. Let's see now. Is that doing anything? Cool. It did, but only when spawning something new in, which is odd. Okay. I can delete some spots on the floor, and then it updates whenever I'm... Is it not adding them to the stack then, maybe? So pushing that as a change. Even if it is deferred, that shouldn't be a problem. And then if the queue isn't empty, pass that in. So it should be doing it at the same time as everything else. Not quite sure as to why it isn't, but let's run it again, see if I can make sense of it. So that's fine. It's only updating when I place new blocks in, which is weird. Since the processes are virtually identical for both. If I run a stream through that, cool as it looks, it's not it's not quite worked properly. But it's quite cool though, not gonna lie. Little cave here. I do want to know why it's only updating though whenever I'm pressing left click. That's odd, to say the least. Because we're basically calling the same thing, right? So must be the way that updating. Oh, of course, because we're only updating this at the point at which oh, how do I explain it? So we're only updating this number at the point at which something new spawned in. I think what I could do, I'd simplify it. It'd simplify everything a hell of a lot more. Add a case into here for if. So rather than this be spawn model instance, call it just something like change. I don't know, update model or something. Basically, copy all of this existing code into the deferred loading process and make deletion and copying basically the same thing. I mean, I can see that working fine. It's like I kind of know why it isn't working in my head. I'm just trying to find it. I'm finding it hard to like make that concrete and then identify a fix. How do I explain it? So, essentially, let's run through it. So, what happens when we want to remove? Basically, what I'm interested in is this number at the moment. So I think this is at fault. Let's say I want to remove something. So it's passed into change voxel as anything is. Yeah, so sorry, let's go through it step by step. So we're going to change voxel. We're passing in the material, so the old material is saved to that stack. I don't think we're relying on any other old data, sorry, in here. Because that should be updated. So anything that's removed should be getting its visible mesh set to -1. It's very confusing. Basically, right, so it's been added to the stack, sure. We've wanted to change it, it's been added to the stack, but this time it has a material of 0. There's nothing in here that stops that from being processed at this point. It's added to the stack. All of the existing things are overwritten. Wait, I might know what it is. Oh, is this no. That's not the problem. Also, we now know that this works, so I can actually remove these stupid rotator things that I've put in. Aren't necessary at all. Hopefully this doesn't fuck up my formatting. It's cool. Not that that should really make much of a difference, I just want to make sure it still works, even if it's just a little bit. So again, choose the ellipsoid brush, expand its size to max. Yeah, so it's still working. It's quite cool though, eh? One thing I am a bit frustrated that I can't do is get the smoothing to work on the voxel removal. Because that would entail doing all of the surrounding blocks, and for each brush that would be quite a challenge, I think. Although I guess I could just apply smoothing again, and I don't see why it hasn't done that in this case. It should have done. I guess it's because it needs to be one. I think there's a setting called connective smoothing somewhere, and I don't know if I've got that turned on or not. No. Well, that doesn't exist apparently. So what's different? That's what I want to ask. What actually happens at the end of placing a block that's different from what we already do? Is there anything specifically that changes, maybe? I mean, other than adding an instance to the list, maybe adding instances refreshes it. That could be something worth exploring, maybe? So what I'm going to do on the side, in fact I'll bring it over. Here we go. So I know for a fact that there's more than this. It doesn't have a link up to. Let's see if this. No, if this is all the other documentation I don't want. Blueprints. Don't want blueprint. Be a bit more specific, and hopefully we'll get what we need. Here we go. I'm just basically looking to see if there's anything about updating position. So this might be it, actually. Although I think that just shifts them to a new position, which isn't actually what I want to do. I'll go down to U and see if there's an update somewhere. Oh, of course, there's the one that we're actually using. One thing I'm also going to look at is, well, I'm no longer doing this XYZ stuff, so let's remove that, see if that has any effect. I doubt it again, but you never know. Sometimes code's weird and it does things you do not expect it to. Let's save that. Could that have been the problem? So passing in X, Y and Z, it shouldn't have changed much, but I don't know. For some reason, only updating it when we're adding stuff to the buffer, I think. Let's do a quick experiment. Let's add... Yeah, let's just add an instance. I mean, why not? What's the worst that could happen? And then let's, I don't know, give it some random stuff. What is it that we want? That I guess will do. Really need anything else. Don't know if that's got one too many brackets on it. Oh, that should be fine. Also just give it a random position of something or other. Basically, if this works, then I know that it's just only updating when... Can I not type? There we go. It's only updating when stuff's being added, so this will be interesting to see. Might just be a quirk of instance meshes where it only really updates the entire set of transforms when the list is edited in some way. Yeah, okay. Seems I was right. That's really cool though, not gonna lie. And then I should remove all of them when it's updated. That's really dumb. Maybe this function actually accepts bools. Maybe I can add in an additional parameter. Render state world space. Let's try true in that. Never know. Oh, this song's cheesy. Don't want it. Go away. Bin. Song sounds just as bad though, to be fair. Oh yeah, nah. Let's thumbs down that. There we go.
And now, a poem by Hans Moleman.
All of these songs are garbage. I'm just gonna skip through until something semi-decent comes on. Oops. Oh yeah. Basically, if this does the same thing, then I can update the boolean change in all of them and hopefully get that updated. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try mark render state dirty. I think this is the thing that I want to set, basically. Let's try that. So I think render state dirty, I presume, is just like a flag in the system that says this needs updating, please update it. So we'll see. Yeah. Ah, the more you know. I actually quite want to pull the definition for that up actually and see why it is doing what it says it is. So when I update instance transform, let's have a look. That's interesting. Jobs, lose the house, but the bed is enough. After that, still got the couch, honey, what's up? Love game amazing. Nirvana states we are chasing. Nothing in this world but us, the walls are fading. So every time one is added, it rebuilds the entire list. Well, sorry, not rebuilds, but re-renders the entire list. Okay, interesting. Let me double check what that does just in case I need to leave that as false. I can leave that as world space, yeah, that's fine. In fact, actually, that's the behaviour I want, because I don't want it to follow around the meshes that exist. Add that, there we go. I mean, you learn something new every day. I mean, I thought it was a bug with my code, apparently not. It's just an issue with the way this works. Good job I know, though. So in theory, this should now all be fine, and I can now delete and add instances at will, which, again, it's a stupid solution, I know it is, but it works, so can't really complain too much, to be honest. Let's play it again. Should be able to just, a bit hard to target the floor, there we go. I do need like some kind of visual indicator really, but it's a later me problem, let's put it that way. Ooh. That is actually really sick. I'm so proud that that worked. I do want to investigate quickly. I can't remember what my reason was for not doing it before, but I want to see if I can get smoothing to work on local blocks. I'm sure it's possible, I just need to work out why it's not doing it. Oh, this song's awful. What the fuck? It's kind of the thing I expected, to be honest, with Pretzel, is it just playing garbage songs, I'm not gonna lie. For royalty free though, I can't really complain, to be honest, but very occasionally it'll play like the kind of stuff where it's like budget SoundCloud rapper, but they don't know that they're not quite that good, so they give it away for free, hoping that that'll make people listen. I don't know. I mean, no disrespect to the artists, of course, but like that. I'm like a bit of a music freak, so what was it? Yeah, so right, let's investigate voxel smoothing quickly. Right, so one thing I'm not doing, I've done this for the cube, but one thing I'm not doing is updating with additional diameter. So apparently I've done it for the cube, which is odd, but I'll just have a look quickly and see if the cube actually does work and it's not just everything else. I think I just need to update those numbers though, basically just to expand the radius of the smoothing. Let's have a look. Oh wait, cube it was, there we go. So did that smooth anything? Genuinely don't think so. Maybe it just wouldn't smooth it in that circumstance. No, I'd expect that to smooth out. That one, for example, should have smoothed out. Let's try going all the way down to... Change Voxel ellipsoid is what I want. So I am actually updating it. So it's using the updated voxel information, and it's part of the deferred loading process, so that should be fine. So the material is prematurely updated before it's actually actioned on, which is fine. That's what we want. So we want the spaces to be empty before we smooth it out. So what I need to do is also defer my smoothing, but then that causes... Alright, so this is the train of thought I was following before, and the reason I didn't actually do this. So basically, to defer the smoothing, it would mean writing the... it would basically mean making a system that first places the blocks and then smooths it out afterwards, which to me seems a bit silly. It might be worth doing. For now, however, it's not important. Not immediately, at least. I guess, I don't know, is it that important? It won't be too hard, I don't think. All I need to do is stick all of this code in like a deferred thing and have another stack like I did before. Like what position it is and stuff. I wouldn't even need to store the material information, just need to defer it. Because it's only actioned on anyway if there's a difference in shape afterwards, I think. What I could do, and this would work fine actually, is put the ignore me, I'm being stupid. Give me a moment. Basically got to wrangle a few different ideas in my head and see which one makes the most sense. Yeah, what I'm thinking I do is create a deferred loading stack like I did before. Actually no, it shouldn't matter because all these changes should be made anyway. All of the voxels are essentially updated. And I don't think I'm using anything that isn't updated beforehand. So the material's updated immediately. It's only old material that we kind of persist, but it's like not even real persistence, it's just on that stack that we've got, just for deletion really. Oh no, thinking about it, yeah. No, I do need to defer the loading because even though this is happening beforehand, the deferred loading obviously doesn't happen before that's executed. So yeah. Apologies that it's taken that long for me to figure that out. I'll rename this to so basically what we're going to do, replicate this minus the old material behavior. So it's a relatively straightforward process. I literally just want to copy what's happened here. Obviously push that data to a new stack, one that basically can just delay what's supposed to happen. Why is it taking so long? Is it broken? Again? Why is it being so...
Stories, my saga got killers changing up fate. Snitching is a disgrace. Mob legacy, what it was is what it ain't. And you can feel the pain when I paint this. The skies turn gray in the summertime. Strays get shot, lives get taken. The dumb, deaf, and blind need to awaken. Cause the poor getting more poor, the rich keep caking. The earth is possessed. The worst is the
one thing I also want to do, actually, ignoring that quick, I want to test, because this might actually be quicker to do. I want to see if the new system makes it faster to do this stuff with. Do we have a boolean for deferred loading? Not currently. I think this will break because I've not actually updated existing code for this to work on. Yeah, let's... by some miracle this actually works. That's in the material ID for that, doesn't need to be anything else. There we go. I don't think it's all good for this is going to work because I think I've made changes that prevent this from being a thing. That being said, maybe not. Oh, so smoothing just doesn't work. Fair enough. Does deleting work? Let's get my brush out. No, it doesn't. Why is that not working then? Might be to do with the way I've re-implemented my shapes actually. Oh, sorry, no, that's the wrong thing that I passed in anyway. Let's put that in there. Not that it will make much of a difference, but it will at least allow me to delete stuff. Oh, and actually that might fix it. It might put the smoothing back on. That works. It's just smoothing that's broken now. Oh.
Oh my god, I never thought I'd ever hear MGMT again. But guess who popped up on the Yo Gabba Gabba Spotify station
What
yesterday?
this song?
She's late for baby yoga, but she's looking hella fly.
Some songs are just distracting more than anything. It's why I don't want to listen to them. I sound like such a snob, but I mean, true. So why would smoothing no longer work? Because we're updating all of the models first.
Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Everything for a reason. Everything for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
The materials are all updated straight away, right? So changing all of that. Updating instantly this time. And then we're smoothing it out. Oh, so what hasn't changed is we're no longer calling change voxel inside of smooth, the smoothing code basically. So this function is what I want to update. Wherever the hell I put that. Here we go.
I can show you how to be real and be free. Take it to Hollywood heaven, baby. If you really wanna party with me, grab me an ass, girl, you know what it is, baby. Put my hands where your eyes can see. I can see you standing in the lights with me, with no ego. Me and you against the ground, for real. You look like one in a million. Come be my lead. Show you a place to me. I need to show you all of me. If you're loyal, girl, you inspire me to be royal. You ain't got a trip, we good in Diego.
That'll be right, I think. Oh, it needs rotation as well. Oh shit, I put stuff in the wrong place then. I think there's material. There we go. So, and this will be a bit slower, so I'm not doing it properly, but just as a temporary solution, let's see if this works. Yeah, so this is working again. Basically what I just wanted to test is if spawning instances is a lot faster, because what it means is I don't need to do deferred loading anymore. It's a bit choppy, mind, but not as bad as I thought it would be, I'm not gonna lie. But I wonder if there's a way to smooth that out a little bit. Deferred loading obviously fixes that, but well, that's quite cool though, look at that, it's like a little cave or something. so basically what I'm going to do is have a boolean called deferred loading. So I'm going to wrap all of the stuff that I've made with the boolean, basically toggling whether or not I want that on or off. So I've got the choice of choosing both technologies depending on the situation, because I've just added it in, I might as well. And then this way I can change how it behaves. If I do want deferred loading, then obviously I still need to add in that queue that deals with updating those blocks, but that's a minor problem now. I kind of know what I'm doing anyway, but I just wanted to verify that that actually works properly. So I'll give it true initially. So this is basically if it's turned off, we want it to happen straight away. So if it's not on currently, we don't want to change the voxel immediately because that'll happen automatically. If it is active, however, we need to queue the object itself to be edited. In fact, we should just be able to push that to the stack, to be honest. Can't see why not. Go all the way up to where I've actually got that queued loading thing. Where have I put it? I can't even remember. Where would I have put it? I think I've just put it inside of all of the spawn. Sorry, it would have been on change voxel, wouldn't it? So here we go. Here we go. This might actually be a lot simpler than I thought it was initially. Let's try. And then go back down to where I was, which was where the hell smooth block is. Here we go. I think this should work anyway. Oh no, it won't do because this hasn't been updated yet. I mean, I'm almost convinced this isn't going to work, but on the off chance it does, I'll leave that in there quickly for now. What was I going to edit? There's this bit here. So you want to add that back in, but wrap it in that ball I made. Stick all of this up in there, and then have an else statement for the rest of it. Oops, I'll delete that, that would break everything. So this won't work. This won't maintain smoothing. Like the program will work, but the smoothing won't do it, from what I understand. However, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to get it working eventually. Oh, hold on, that actually did smooth out. Don't know if it's smoothing out accurately though. Okay. Would it work going the other way? That's the real question. That's on all sides. That's the one thing I care about really. Actually, yeah, thinking about it, there's no reason why this shouldn't work. I'm just being stupid. Yeah. Cool. Sick. I fixed it with a few simple lines of code that I didn't even think would work. Awesome. That's really cool. I guess now one thing I could look at doing, I'll get rid of that note now that I've completed it. Where was I? I just want to double check that I've done everything I need to in the smooth block section. Yes, we're just re-updating basically those places that are different. One thing I do want to make sure is that we're not adding them twice. Oh yeah. I could wrap this in a further if, but given how fast it is already, I don't know if I really need to. It might even be slower, because just processing this straight up might be quite fast, but just on the off chance it isn't, I will put that in there, and then you know what, that's effort. Don't want to do it. I'm a lazy programmer, I know, but basically, unless it's a performance problem later on, it's not something I'm going to fix now. I'll just keep it in mind moving forward. One thing I did want to look at is potentially updating the way voxel smoothing works. Just because the old system, it seemed to work a lot better in terms of it looked more visually pleasing, the end result, because, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. In fact, I might be able to bring up an image of the older system. One that I ultimately scrapped just because it was very convoluted at the time, and I streamlined it somewhat. But let's bring up an old image here. So this old system, you can see, like on this corner for example, that's divoted. It looks really nice. Basically that's nice, this bit's good. And then for comparison's sake, let me show you here. These bits that were supposed to be divoted are no longer divoted, of course, which means that essentially it's not as nice as it should be. So what I'm going to try and do is make... It's kind of somewhat hard to describe, but I'm going to make a missing corner worth more to the smoothing algorithm than just a missing adjacent block. So in this case, there's a block, no block, so that would be... Yeah, that'd be raised. Block, 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 that'd be raised. Missing block. Missing block. Block, that'd be lowered. But if, say, just the corner was missing, that would balance out. So basically I'm rambling, but I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's go to... Sorry, just reorganising the stuff on the side. Alright, let's go back to where the stuff's actually calculated. Since I simplified the code before and I've spoken about it, obviously on other live streams. Here we go. So I want to identify the ones which are corners. So I believe that is these ones here, and then times their priority by 2. Let's do that for all of them. I have absolutely zero idea, by the way, what the effect of this is actually going to be ahead of time. It might not work, it might mess things up entirely, so we'll see. I might need to shift the boundary of when it decides to lower slightly. Or I'll scrap this out. Oh, I mean to do that again. Play it again. See what it does. No, so that didn't work, it just messed other things up. So it's nearly the effect I want, but not quite. It's close, just not quite there. Right, so what edge cases now need fixing to get it to the point that it was at before? So in this case, where we've got a diagonal occupier what I could maybe do is make diagonal occupiers worth half as much as diagonal missings, so that potentially this corner would lower and shift the boundary slightly. So I need to do some maths in my head as to exactly what that would look like, but let's look at it from the top down. So in this case we've got 1, 2, 3. 2 of them are active, so that'll be 2. So we want to lower it if not all of them are... Right, I think I know what to do. So it basically just means adjusting these numbers until it fits nicely. That's essentially what I need to do. So if the space is empty, return true. Return 2. If not, return 1. No problem, I don't think there. Just wrap that in another set of brackets just so it's not too confusing. And we want to add this in. I do apologise, by the way, that I'm not always able to explain everything fully. It is something that I want to get good at doing, which is part of the reason why I do these live streams. It's about skill development at the end of the day. Communication obviously is a big part of that, and I feel like sometimes I cannot explain fully what's in my head. I mean, it's different. I don't know if it's different in a good way, but it's certainly different. Cool, I guess. Right, that fucks you up a little bit, but I mean, I guess it would do. Let me get the big brush in there. Well, that looks nice actually. I mean, nice-ish. I mean, it's still a bit fucked up in some places, but it's better than it was before. Very interesting. I think that's a cool effect actually. Yeah, that's fine. I thought that was a bit busted, but no, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the effect I wanted. I mean, it's not... I'll raise that with Josh. That is fixing. But yeah, I think that's the effect I was going for, actually. So, big. This all seems to make sense, actually, in terms of the shapes that we're getting. Also, I've never seen these blocks in here before, so that's great, I guess, that these are actually being used. Awesome. It's actually basically demo ready, and I've only made a few changes today. I think what I'll do at some point is record all of this working. Yeah, and show it off. This, where is it? Where's it gone? The block that's not working properly. Have I deleted all of them by accident? I think I have. Let's spawn some more shit in and delete it again. There we go. Gib. Want some extra blocks. Why are these not working? Red flag. Alt. Busted something there. See what I think I've done. Removed it while it's being spawned in, potentially. Yeah, because it's not removed. Ah, God. Maybe I need deferred removal as well. In terms of, I need to basically add more. I need to add the material to the stack multiple times so that old materials can be cleaned up correctly. If that makes sense. It does. At least I found that bug though. I mean, it's always. As much as I hate finding them, you know, it's better that you find them now, obviously, than later. What shape was it I needed fixing? So, I believe it's this one. No, that's its variant. I want basically that, but inverted. No, that's too high up. That one? No. It is basically this. Oh, it's that variant I'm using, isn't it? So if I copy that, I'm going to send a message to Josh quickly. This is just part of our development process, really, which is why I'm doing it now as well. Is obviously I need to communicate with him at various points while I'm developing. I mean, I could save it for later, but it's better that I think I show you exactly what it is I do on a day-to-day basis rather than push stuff off for later. So that request is sent off to him now. So I can get rid of that in the scene, don't need it anymore. And let's investigate this material cleanup. So basically what I'm going to do, keep this as pos. I'm going to move this into a separate queue, and I'm going to call this queue something similar. I'll just copy this data structure, it's easier to do. Call this... In fact, I don't even need a struct, just call it old material. Then have a structure of old materials. My brain's just completely broken. I don't think that's how it works. No, I'm off my rocker. So that is a queue of shorts, not a queue of a particular instance. That wouldn't make any sense. Deferred material data. So with this being implemented, what I will do is copy essentially code that I've got already, and just move this over. So anywhere that it throws errors, I need to update, pretty much. But I will go through it step by step regardless anyway. And basically I just want to stick that in there instead, so delete that. There we go. And then slowly just basically go through stuff and just clean it up. Get rid of that. No longer needed. There's also the function definition as well, which I no longer want to include that material thing in it, so get rid of that. Which also means it will throw errors in here, which is great because it means I know where to fix it from. Yeah, get rid of that. And then old material will be... In fact, and rather than pull old material every single time, what I can do is make a new thing up here called old material, and then make it equal to the thing in the front of the queue. Sorry, my brain just had a moment there. Right, so if I go to... It'll be in that format, so dot front. I'll just keep that at the top so I can see it. So deferred material data dot front. Doesn't have a single, it doesn't have an additional property, so I don't need to include a dot something, so it's not a struct, so that should be fine. And then obviously once that's made use of, I can pop it. But also in here, I need to know if the deferred loading is active. Just so I can basically say either use it what's in the existing thing or take it from the stack. So if it is active, I want that. If not, I want to get the current material, which is voxel data dot material, and then obviously x y. Oh, I've just realised this might not work. For a very stupid reason. I actually don't think this will work. And again, it might do. Let me think about it. Yes, I think what I need to do we're pushing both and then we're popping both, right? Actually no, this should work. One thing I was wondering about basically is if I was pushing multiple data requests to the deletion queue, how does it know what shape it's tied to? But because they're going into the queue at the same time, and they're both being processed in parallel, it actually shouldn't be an issue. It would be an issue, however, if I called this externally, because then I'd need to know what like request number it is attached to almost. But I think this is fine so long as I push it off the stack at the end, of course. Let me just find out where this is gone rid of. So that's just pop. So I need that check as well. In fact, no, I don't, because I know that if something's in this queue, then something's definitely in this queue as well. Bit risky, but performance friendly, and that's the main thing. And one of the things that I learned from a really good lecturer that I had last year, actually, was that there were some people, like another lecturer, who their main focus is obviously code quality, architecture, making sure that stuff is safe, whereas a games developer's main concern, of course, is performance. Now, if you have to sacrifice some level of safety, but you know it will work in favour of performance, you almost have to do it. It's like, you don't want to, but you kind of have to. And sometimes it can save development time as well, as lazy as it is. Other times, of course, it causes massive headaches and problems. Like if I'd architected this code properly, rather than hack it together as I go along, then it'd probably be a lot easier to work with, but it might not be as performance friendly. Then again, it might be, I don't know. I can pop it at this point, actually.
I know they understand. Can you picture life without music? It's not right, that's the reason that I do this. Play my part, I'm in the heart of a movement to show students what's real and what's illusion. I can't picture this life without music. It's not right, that's the reason that I do this. Play my part, I'm in the heart of a movement to show students what's real.
Hopefully this works. It's a big hopefully at this point. Should do. I don't know. Fuck it. I kind of just test stuff as I go along, really. That's my development style. I feel like it, so long as you're quite good in terms of your imagination, like you've got a good visual mind, you can kind of work through anything. Like it's not too big of that much of a deal. That, of course, needed removing though. Look at that. Okay.
Try to box me in like an alpine. Can you picture this life without music? It's not right, that's the reason that I do play my part. I'm in the heart of a movement to show students what's real and what's illusion. I can't picture this life without music. It's not right. right, that's the reason that I do this. Play my part, I'm in the heart of a movement to show students what's real and what's illusion.
This might have actually been the code that was breaking it. But I mean, I like the new implementation better anyway because it separates positioning from materials, but the reason it might have been breaking before is because it was pushing the material data with the new one and not the old one, basically, to summarise.
Trying to sidestep fakes at a jet pace, so fast that I warp like wet planks. To the next date, I'ma let the rest wait, cause the rest late just like the West. So simply complex, but it all connects. You were blind and I called your bets, and I'm fine with the small regrets. Gotta pay debts, day in the life, day in the night, it all resets.
I mean, I still think it won't work because of that update that I've not made, but run it anyway. Never know. It did partially work before anyway, so we'll see. I actually don't think I've fixed the problem properly. I think I've not at all done it correctly. Yeah, that's just crashed, I think. Oops. That's all I can really say. Yeah, what have I done? Line 212, so...
Alleyways dusty, back streets are broken. Token to the past, all I read about hoping for a brighter tomorrow. Green grass syndrome, it's drought time, so the lawns dry as a bone. Project a fantasy trap in another direction. Come to quench the thirst for a deeper connection. Eyes meet for a
I need further information, really. Let's have a look.
on to the next. Steps remove dust, tread closer to something. The sky hangs low, and I'm hoping it opens, cause I need it now more than ever to bring rain. To wash away the stain, bring a state of change.
216.
Cure for that, nothing. Still trying to find a way to keep buzzing. What's the cure for that? Nothing. Hop on until the world starts rocking. I can see something, maybe it's a source of light. Can't fathom the edges of if it's wrong or right. Like I'm drowning, trying to find down a rope. And my body aches, wishing for the world to stop. I'm getting dizzy and
I have initialized it, haven't I?
my life rough, sprung a big face
Yeah.
down in the bath, scared of the death. Creatures of the deep looked at me and they wept.
Just the queue is short. Where's the crash happening then? 246. That shouldn't be it. I don't know if this would help in any way, but if I do this instead. Yeah, I think what's basically happened is I've not pushed this in the right place. This should be pushed basically in the it is part of the smoothing process.
And it feels good to feel good again.
I guess it's part of here as well, but basically it's missing some push calls as part of smoothing. So yeah, in fact I won't do that, it's pointless. Let's redo that change though. So Save that. Go all the way down to smoothing, smooth block, here we go.
I'm just happy that I'm back to really feeling this good, I swear. Ain't no telling what we gon' do. I'm just trying to love you. So come and spend the night, let me treat you right, baby, baby. Because ain't no question what we want to. Let me be the one to do this thing together. Ain't nobody do it better than you. Sipping wine that's quadruple my age. With a girl that's got me feeling this unusual way. Giving up private shows leads to where the private show I would go. Risk it all earlier if I knew just how those eyes would roll. See you either getting dirty or dusty. And I'm trying to be a man that you see worthy of trust and know that you're moving. And we ain't got the time to invest in something real, but for some reason I try nonetheless. Guess that's my intuition.
But just put that in here. And then just shift all of this up to there. Simple. So the reason this works is because this is not being relied on by Change Voxel at all, because we're pushing in the direct variables anyway. So we're pushing in these that are edited. So it's not using these. If I remember correctly, they're updated here anyway. Yeah, they're updated there anyway. I've lost myself, there we go. And the deferred loading process doesn't even deal with these variables until after this point anyway, so that should all work fine. So now if I run this, I don't believe there'll be any issues. I think all the issues that I had in my head are kind of fixed, although I did crash the editor, didn't I? Should have restarted that in the background. Duh. But once I've done with this issue, I think I'm going to call it. I know I said this was going to be a short one, and I guess relatively speaking it is, but I've spent a little bit more time than I initially had planned to spend on the project, but only because I've been making progress. Like, if I get into a rhythm and I start building features, I tend to keep things going a little bit longer because it's like, it's not demoralizing. Some of the stuff I've been working on has been a real drag so far, and that has not been fun, to say the least. Oh, and it crashes again. Okay. Right. What's the crash this time? Want to know why it has issue with change voxel? I'm just going to make sure that I am actually pushing and popping in the same way that I am for other stuff. Pushing that there. And both delete and deferred voxel load data are getting popped. So both things are happening. Oh, actually, I guess I'm pushing multiple times now that I put this.
This is a song about a very minor character from Rick and Morty. Are you serious? Here we go.
So a Rick and Morty song's just come on. Nice. I'll allow it.
Just like Morty Jr., no distractions in his nature. Cat half Kazorpian and he don't like you either. Smack you in the head with the telephone receiver. Spitting racial epithets, spilling coffee on the table. A dark and sick reality since Rick hooked up the cable. It's Garfield minus Garfield plus a little Scorsese. While Morty's in his room with the robot making babies. On the matriarchal planet, all the women call the shots. And Lorenzo music's still alive, involved in every plot. Playing Venkman in the cartoon like Bill Murray in the movie. Rick Sanchez making conversation and it's mad confusing. He's Gazorpazorp. Gazorpazorp field. Gazorpazorp.
Yeah, I overcomplicated that actually. I was doing twice the amount of work, I think. Let me just double check I removed all the deferred loading stuff. Let's go up to...
You've been a very bad cat. Putting normal in the oven, throwing Odie in the vat. A boiling stew, I thought you knew the power of the flame. Why did you have to immolate your friends? You're so insane. Well, Summer's been a bummer, shooting steroids, fighting demons. And Scroopy Nooper still protecting Pluto for a reason. And pizza eating people always gotta stuff their face. Showing zero prejudice, enjoying every race. Yum. Alternate realities, I know we've seen a few. Parents staying single, snuffles in the robot soup. Rick and Morty mutilated, buried in the yard. Logically impossible, like Soren Kierkegaard. He might say it's absurd. Word out.
Oh, please don't crash. But didn't crash. Good. It's all still working. It seemed to be an issue when I was spawning a lot of shit in and then quickly deleting it afterwards. Yeah. Whatever the... Oh, what the hell's going on here? It's getting stuck though.
From a planet where males grow up to kill. John reads from his paper, but your boy keeps it real. Hit it with it, you're a dumb, weak, stupid idiot. Throw a little white guild in for the fun of it. Gazorpazorp feels is a line and I'm crossing it. Like ants in my eyes, Johnson, you are feeling it.
I don't know why these are getting stuck, genuinely. Also happened up here as well. It's not deleting some of them, but... Okay. Well, that's obviously not good. Cool. It's like it almost works for stuff that's settled. I guess is the best way that I can explain it. But yeah, it works on the initial stuff because it wasn't overwritten at any point. But because this was smooth, the top part, it's not liking that in the slightest. I feel like I'm doing quite a bit of serious programming, and then I've got a song about enchiladas in the background. Well, Rick and Morty. I mean, basically all this refactoring work I did was pretty pointless because now I'm pushing to 2 separate lists. And I've ended up with more or less the same thing. At least now I've got a data structure for positioning though, I guess. One thing. Although I could have used a vector, to be perfectly honest. So... getting pushed to the queue and then edited, but then getting overwritten immediately by another brush, I presume, is the issue. Oh, this is a lot to handle for late night hours, not gonna lie. One thing I've been meaning to do for a while actually is get a larger brush, The reason it was so small initially is for performance reasons, but I no longer have that cap, so I'm just going to up the min and max, but I can't remember where I put them. I must have had a min and max value somewhere. I would have liked to find it. Or maybe it's in the increase and decrease stuff actually. Yeah, so if I up that to, I don't know, what's reasonable, let's say 25. I mean, maybe that's not reasonable, but I guess it depends on your definition of reasonable. A good testing size, let's put it that way. Okay. Now I'm going to have to do a lot of scrolling because of the way the brush increases work. Get it all the way up to max. So to explain what I'm doing whenever I scroll the wheel, at the start I'm just increasing the imaginary brush size in the background. Ooh. Big boy. That looks weird. Why does it look weird? I think just because of the lighting, but yeah, sick. I just need to work out why it's not doing what it's supposed to. So this constant overwriting is, I think, where the issue's coming in. Either something's going wrong in the intermediate step between the two. Between placing the block and smoothing it out, or just the sheer volume of them is causing some kind of error to not be caught. So it might be that, yeah, so it seems to me that some blocks just aren't being edited correctly, although it does follow a pattern. I can just work out what that pattern is. I think it's simply somewhere along the line, it's just not being updated correctly. No matter what though, we're pushing to the same stack, so it shouldn't really matter, but maybe some, I don't know, some paneling information might not be getting updated. I know how to fix it. It's a stupid solution, but I'm willing to try it. I guess. Right, so to explain what I'm going to do, so that multiple brushes are not overlapping, but at least not until they're like technically complete. Oh, in fact, I think I know what's going on. I think because we're like kind of temporarily deleting stuff while other things are happening, potentially that's meaning that it's not getting picked up by the deleter. What information does the deleter need that might not be getting updated correct? So old material. Right, visible mesh IDs might be. Or at least not getting pushed correctly anyway. So let's add them to the queue. I don't know why I've removed it from here, it just makes more sense, doesn't it? Let me put back in the material, the visible mesh ID, and that's going to be a 6 big storage container. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just going to go through and fix anywhere where there's issues. Click this to update. There we go. Don't need that anymore, that's no longer necessary. Same with pushing it in the first place. I know that we're pushing maybe a bit more each frame than we actually need to, but whatever, whatever gets it to work. So this would be the current material, so voxel material x, y, not x and x, y, z. Then we also need, this is where it gets a bit fiddly, visible mesh IDs X, Y, Z, and then each position that we're trying to reference. So I might actually store these separately. I can't remember exactly what the syntax is. So I think I can have... Oh, actually, what I could do, again, a bit ugly syntax wise, but I can have an array definition inside of a... I mean, I don't know what the proper term for it is. It's not an array definition, it's just like a string of data, I guess, next to each other, a definition. I can have a few of them. That is not what I meant to do. Copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in total. 1, oh no, sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, if this doesn't work, we'll just remove the curly braces and redefine them as individual ints in here. But yeah, that should be fine. So 1, 2, 3. It's a bit long, but whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then in the deletion part, where we're relying on each thing, we can actually pull from the list the Wherever I put the pop code, I put it somewhere. Why not? We're done with it. Oh right, it's here. Okay. Yeah, sorry, it makes perfect sense. What's it gonna do? Yeah, I just wanted to basically check that was still a thing. So in here, it would be. Like the least elegant thing in the world, but hey, if it works, it works. Update all of these numbers in a second. So one thing I do want to say, if this was a straight up just voxel engine, a lot of this programming would be a lot simpler because I wouldn't be having to juggle an additional bit of tech, which is the smoothing stuff. That actually is where a lot of the added complications come in. I do kind of wish I had finished off all of these optimizations with the voxel code first. Oh god, what's that happened? I'm guessing it's the definition of that thing I've done. As I was saying, sorry, I do wish I had done all of this code initially when trying to just get the voxels to work, and smoothing had come later, but because of the way that the development has gone, obviously I've not known essentially what to do and what order to do it in. It's kind of just been something that I've had to wing along the way as features have come online. So it wasn't like I could get one entire process completed, it was more stuff had to kind of happen incrementally. Sorry, it's hard to type and talk at the same time. I mean, as with most software development, if you knew what the end result was right off the bat, then great, I guess. But it's kind of hard to plan for a lot of stuff. Like all the optimization stuff, I didn't know I had to do until I'd done it, basically. Simply because, well, how can you know, really? No way to predict what will and what won't go wrong in terms of your code. Or what features you might need even. Like I say, I didn't know that optimizations would have been a thing until the code base was actually built and I tested it. So a lot of like the deferred loading stuff, for example, that was an optimization feature that, yeah, without, my life would be a lot easier, but it's kind of necessary. Make sure that the process that I'm following is somewhat smooth. Crashed again. Oh, why is it crashing? Yeah, somewhere. How am I accessing the front of that elsewhere? That's what I want to know. Maybe I should do this for each actually. Leave. Basically exactly this, but just with new data.
This beat is my recital. I think it's very vital to use the force for good, of course. Our Skywalker, that's my title.
Why is there an entire album dedicated to this kind of thing? Well, no, it's not awful, I guess.
Every time I went on tour, I'd be like, this is not the undeclared MC Lars merch that you're looking for. I could levitate like Yoda, I'd eradicate Ebola. I could pick up girls, literally, even master the viola. I could read all of War and Peace in 10 minutes, entirely in Russian just to say that I did it. I could even catch a golden snitch playing Quidditch.
Wait, wrong movie, innit?
Pod racing up the 101, surpassing Golden Gate traffic. R2 on the roof of my Prius, dude. I could FaceTime holographic. I'd play for the A's and we'd win every game.
That would be...
Went all for the Bay. They'd all say, hey, Lars and Vito, and always let me cut the line of El Theralito. 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say some Jedi rhyme. So I said this rhyme I'm about to say. I fought the Sith, and it went this way.
If I were a Jedi, then I'd get all the
3, 4, 5. And then of course reflect this change in each of the things, so basically just deleting up.
It's a trap. It's a trap. Hey, 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 hey. It's a trap.
I'm wondering if I've introduced something by accident somewhere that's causing a crash rather than this code itself, because this is... I mean, obviously I needed to wrap this in some kind of protection, but we're not actually using instant stuff, so...
This one's for every beautiful has-been. The loves of past, future, and my present, presented to me delicately pressed into a memory. I can feel the brush.
It keeps on crashing. Weirdly enough, it's crashing in a really odd place though. It's crashing on the smoothing component of the code, which it wasn't doing before. UE4 doesn't like this at all. I just want to double check actually that I'm even saving the right variable. It's shape IDs I want, I think. That's why it's not working. Obviously I'll need to update the bit of code that actually assigns these. Oh. This bit actually might have just been the issue. Try again. Yeah, I'm really surprised my PC hasn't crashed today, because normally it gets to about an hour and a half in and PC just dies. I might have needed to recompile that. But yeah, my PC normally crashes, so I've not identified exactly what yet crashes it. I think it's a memory issue. I have absolutely no idea. Don't do this to me, please. Right, I need to remember what actually went in here.
You seem to be the only one worthy of a final test. Remove as many of the bells as you can. One sound and you fail. Go.
Now the way I be rockin', don't think you got ready. I hog the beat like bebop, bring it hard. Rock steady, underneath the sewers in a New York City. Form a street team with the Blue Committee. Ain't blue, but they green and mean. Ninjas and turtles and pizza machines. Leonardo Warrior honor, there ain't no cheap shots. Keep looking, this dude, he got no weak spots. Shortstop, play it all, leaving the catcher. 1 through third base, he a boss, Dylan Hatcher. Dylan my homie, and he'll keep you on guard. I'll spit some shards like Splinter while I'm splitting these nerdy bars. When I get in story mode, you know I'm kinda mellow. But I keep it nerdcore, cause I'm a genius, Donatello. You listen to One Up, and you said he's just a stupid lame. Didn't understand, cause you're a crank, just a stupid brain. The world ain't what it seems. You ain't never seen the world's most fearsome fighting scene. When you're a little bit older, you realize the meaning of being useless as a foot soldier. Yo, my lines are heavy sauce, pizza rhyme, and you know what it is, trip pizza time. You realize eventually come around, that's rotunda. Just go and yell the victory cry, cowabunga.
Oh, you want that old chorus? Guess what? Feelings don't care what you want.
I don't think this will fix it, I'll be honest. Do you have an issue with the way I'm pushing it, maybe?
Now, yo, cracking so many jokes, I call them funny, but did so much good, I call him J.R. Honeycutt. Ralphie always wanna fight, and Michelangelo, he plays so much, I call that dude DFW Nerd Night.
Oh, okay, that actually did work.
I hope you guys recorded. I'm behind a mask of dreams. You can't face me, they can tell I don't really give a hockey butt, Casey. In the first verse, I hit you with the pizza rhyme. Slip into the past, slippery sloping like I'm spitting slime. Ninja Turtles in time. I'm gonna shell shock this so hard that it's silence. In my crescendo, megaphone, fine tunes, yellow bone. Sewer surfing myself right up.
Those stuff that was smooth now isn't working properly. I think.
Destroy, never reappear. The world ain't what it seems. You ain't never seen the world's most fearsome fighting scene. When you're a little bit older, you realize the meaning of being useless as a foot soldier. Yo, my lines are heavy sauce, pizza rhyme, and you know what it is, trip pizza time. You realize eventually come around, that's rotunda. Just go and yell the victory cry, cowabunga.
Cowabunga with the cowboy breaker, got my dual shredder looking like an MF Vega.
I think it's when this bit is updated, to be honest. I don't think this is updated in time.
Down, left, right, Konami code 7 lines into the dark turtle night. You got your Tecmo stories, nothing as nice as that red-headed shorty. So suited with the connection to the board.
Just seem to have made everything worse somehow.
They riding in the criminal flavor. They think they got it bad, they got Triceratops in busy destroying worlds, teleports in New York City. Brain flying in, he wants to steal the show. Got Irma scared splitter doing rat time kung fu. Multicolor foots holding up the track. The populace freaking out, can't drag, breaking habits.
Don't need ooze to give him a bruise.
I want to see if this still works as well.
Get included in my muse. Let cool have a temper that's worse than Raphael. They say I should keep it inside, but what the shell? That's why my name ring bells like Lord Noranaka. Take it back, ring bells like Hector Salamanca.
Yeah, I think I genuinely will call it soon, even if I can't fix this. But I will have to undo what I've already done, so that it's not broken, basically. I might just turn deferred loading off, to be honest. If it's causing that many problems, no reason why I shouldn't.
The world ain't what it seems. You ain't never seen the world's most fearsome fighting team. When you're a little bit older, you realize the meaning of being useless as a foot soldier. Yo, my lives are happy sauce, pizza rhyme, and you know what it is, trip pizza time. You realize eventually come around, that's rotunda. Just go and yell the victory cry, cowabunga.
I mean, on the bright side, the editor works. Okay, let's have a look again. So, is there any additional data that I could push to the stack at this point that could be used as a way to update what's going on here? Where am I going? Right. I have the feeling that this in here might also have something to do with it, so maybe using the material provided part of the stack information. Let's try that. No harm. I guess. Would also mean including all of the data, though, just for completeness sake, you know, just to make sure that there are absolutely no issues whatsoever. Rotation could be another source of the issue. Although again, it's unlikely. Oh no, because this would also mean checking whether or not it's part of the same thing. Undo. Basically, I'm just getting tired and frustrated at this point, so I think if I come back tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes, hopefully things will start making sense. It's a bit worrying that I've broken like a lot of stuff though. It stopped working before. Interesting. Working completely now? Oh, it's because I've not toggled thingy back on, have I? Let's have all of the bugs. Doesn't look like it's updated to me. Oh, again. Yeah. So anything basically that's affected by smoothing, anything that's layered on top of each other isn't getting removed from the scene, and I need to work out why that is. But I think that's a problem for another day. We're very close, basically. It's at the point now where everything's working nicely. It's more polished to the point where I'm happy. I've just introduced a new bug as a part of this new overhaul that I've been doing. Nothing stands out to me as of yet as to what the problem might be. What I might need to do is push more data onto this stack, fully update the spawning code to reflect this, which I think makes perfect sense. Obviously we can't just be reading from the same potentially stale data all the time, especially if we're overwriting a lot of stuff. So what will probably happen as a result of that is all of this code in here will get converted over to the new system, something similar to what we've got here where we're assigning variables at the start of the function based on whether or not deferred loading is active. And then we'll basically replace all the variables that we have currently. And also it might actually end up making some areas of the code a bit faster because we're reducing deferred reads, so basically read access through other objects. Not entirely sure if that's how the performance on that works, but it's worth considering, especially if these are getting referenced as like a get or something indirectly by the compiler. So yeah, it's a problem for another day. Basically, thank you for joining me. I know that today's been a bit of a weird one. There's not really been much to, I guess, tangibly demonstrate in terms of what feature it is that I'm working on. I know I've just been doing general bug fixes. Hopefully it's been fun to watch the progress so far as to what's gone on, and I hope that you've learned something maybe from this today, or at least you find it cool anyway, like I do, to see the progress that's been made. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a nice week.